Hello everyone. This video demonstrates how you can efficiently manage the permissions of your users in Deskera ERP in order to allow or deny them access to certain features in accordance to their roles in your company. First, you would want to make sure that your users are registered and assigned access to Deskera ERP. Do note that you need to be the company administrator to do this. In the App Dashboard page, click Administration in the Quick Links section. Under the User Administration tab, click Manage Application Access and choose Deskera Accounting. In the window that pops up, users listed on the right side have access to Deskera ERP, while users listed on the left side do not. Grant or deny them access by selecting their checkboxes and clicking the green arrows to move them to the right or left side. When finished, click Update. Users who are not assigned to Deskera ERP will not see the ERP app on their dashboards, and they cannot access it manually by its web address. The opposite is true for users who are assigned to Deskera ERP. Head over to Deskera ERP. Expand the menu to the left of your screen if it's not already visible. Under the System category, expand Preferences and click User Maintenance. The User Administration tab appears, and in it you will see the names of users who are assigned to Deskera ERP, along with their roles in your company, their email addresses, their most recent login timings, and the IP addresses they logged in with. The names of the people who were not assigned to Deskera ERP earlier in the App Dashboard page will not be listed here. If your organization is very large, and this user list spans across multiple pages, finding your users can be made easier by sorting these columns in ascending or descending order, performing a search of their names, and by choosing how many users you'd like to view for every page. Select a user and click Assign Permissions. These are the available roles which you can assign to the user, and these are all the features in Deskera ERP which you can permit this user to use or prohibit him from using. Some of the checkboxes of these permissions may already be ticked, depending on the role that the user is currently assigned to. To assign a different role, choose from one of the following predefined roles. I will show you how to define new roles later. Click Yes if you want the permissions associated with that role to be automatically applied. Go ahead and tick the checkboxes for more features that he should be using, and also go ahead and untick those which he should not be using. Note that if you assigned him the company administrator role and clicked Yes to apply its permissions, all the checkboxes will be ticked, and you cannot untick any of them. Click Apply to save the settings you made. You may have noticed that there were a lot of permissions and checkboxes to look through, and it would be quite tedious to assign permissions again for more users, especially if your company has hundreds of users. This is where assigning roles comes in handy. More often than not, a large company would have groups of people who require the same set of permissions because they share the same job responsibilities. You can save time by defining roles based on common sets of permissions and then assigning the roles to the users so that permissions of that role get automatically selected for those users. Click on Role Management. You will see a list of existing roles in your company. Every user of Deskera ERP is assigned to one of these roles. Click Add to define a new role. Specify the name of the role, its description, and its commonly needed permissions. Click Apply to save your changes. To redefine a role, select it and click Edit. You can change the name of the role, its description, and its default permissions. Click Apply to save your changes. You can then assign the role to users, in which you should choose to also automatically assign the permissions of that role to your users. You can still manually add or remove permissions for individual users who are assigned the role. However, if you go back and edit the permissions of that role, the new permissions will only update for users whose old permissions you have not manually adjusted. You can delete roles only if they are not assigned to anyone. In order to delete a role that is already assigned to someone, you would first have to reassign that person to a different role. Let's move to the next kind of permissions. Select a user and click Set Amending Price Permissions. In here, you choose whether or not the user is able to change prices found in customer quotations, vendor quotations, sales orders, purchase orders, sales invoices, and purchase invoices. Ticking the checkbox of a module allows the user to change its prices. Tick this checkbox to block the user from lowering prices to below the minimum price that is set for each purchase. The next kind of permissions is useful if you want to allow a user to simply view certain transaction records without being able to make any changes to those transaction records. Select a user and click Permissions to View Records. There are 4 modules to choose from. Ticking a module allows the user to view all records belonging to that module. Otherwise, the user will only be able to view records which he or she created or is tagged to as a salesperson. Here is the ERP interface as seen through a user account that has not been granted any permissions. As you can see, the user is locked out of most modules, and many other modules simply do not appear in the menu to the left. In contrast, this is the ERP interface of an account with administrator permissions. All features are available and accessible without restrictions. We've come to the end of this tutorial, and I hope that it helps you take better control over which features your users should have access to. Thanks for watching.